Welcome to the IRC wall bracing calculator. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to use the tool. If this is your first time doing wall bracing, I have a separate video to walk you through that process, and I would recommend watching that first. Now, when you first log in, you'll see a screen like this. I'm clicking Create a New Job, and then I'll enter the characteristics of my structure. When you push Submit, your job will appear on the main page here. Now, if I click on Upload CAD File, I'm taken to the Purchase page. This calculator works on a pay-per-use system, and wall bracing is done by the floor. A one-story building takes 1 credit. Now that I have a credit, I can upload my CAD file. I'll set the units of my drawing, choose the file, which needs to be a DXF format, and upload. Now that my floor plan has been converted, I need to verify that the scale is accurate. I'm using the mouse wheel to zoom in, and I'll check a horizontal line and a vertical line for accuracy. If the scale and the drawing look good, accept. If you need to change the scale here, reject will delete your file and you can upload a new one. This looks good, so I'll choose accept. And now my floor plan is active. When I click on this link, I'm taken to the calculator. The first feature I'd like to show you is the Help Quick Start Guide, which provides the general workflow and a rough overview of each tool. Click on the tooltips for detailed information. In this video, I'll demonstrate with the standard IRC, which uses wall lines, and the Wisconsin building code, which uses a simplified box method. Notice that when I change the building code, these panels have also changed, which reflects differences in what is permitted by each building code. Before I get started, I'd like to increase the size of my page, and I'm going to set the background to a solid black. Step 2, lay out your wall panels, which is this toolbox here. I'm using the mouse wheel to zoom in and pan around the drawing. I'll toggle this on, select my bracing method and any options that I would like. And now I click on CAD lines to treat them as wall panels. Right-click on a CAD line to change anything. To remove the wall panel, select it as blank or push the delete key. You will mostly want to assign wall panels as I just showed, but there are cases where you may want to manually draw them. Like this situation here. This CAD line is discontinuous, and so this will be treated as one short wall panel and one long wall panel. Now with wall bracing calculations, the length of the panel is highly significant, and this panel would be too short to qualify, even though in reality it's much longer. So instead, I will toggle on the manually draw wall panels, and then I just draw the wall line as follows. From there, I can move it around with the mouse, I can right-click and shuffle it with the arrow keys, and I can change its length as needed. Alright, I've finished laying out the wall panels. I'm using 2 methods, the wood structural panel and a portal frame. So I'm finished with this section. Let's hide this box, and now moving on to wall lines. Because my building code is set to the standard IRC, I'll be drawing wall lines instead of boxes, but I'll show boxes next. I like to use this button first, which draws wall lines roughly where wall panels are found. Now you may need to edit your wall lines. Like this wall line right here is only present because of that wall panel and that wall panel, and so I'm going to right-click and delete this wall line. I think I will do the same for this one here. This wall line should mostly be for the garage, and I would like it to end right here at this intersection. So I'm going to use the T key to trim it, and we will see that the line is getting shorter. Now I'm deliberately letting the lines overlap. Part of the wall bracing code is that the wall lines must intersect with one another. Where they intersect marks where the wall lines begin and end, so they have to intersect. Now on this corner of the house, this wall line should intersect with this bottom one. So I'll right-click and push E to extend. Now you might be wondering, why didn't they intersect to begin with when I pushed the automatically draw button? Well, this button is only referencing valid wall panels. So because this wall line stopped short, it's basically indicating that something about these panels here makes them invalid. Wall lines can also be assigned certain options. These options at the bottom of the toolbox are present because I set this building in seismic design category D0. Wall lines also have the option of being treated as a single story. Let's say this were a two-story building and we're currently working on the first floor. The bottom main residence area might contain a second story above it, but the garage up top likely does not. So this wall line does not need to carry a second story. If I right-click, I can treat it as a single story, and that means that when the calculations take place, it will require less wall bracing. Now let's switch to a building code that uses boxes instead of wall lines. Toggle this switch on and draw the boxes as needed. For this structure, I'll use 2 boxes. Don't worry about getting them to fit perfectly because the program will wrap them in tight to all wall panels that are contained. But if you need to adjust them, like this one, I don't want this wall panel included in this box, so I'll just shift this over slightly. When you right-click the boxes, you can also treat the top, bottom, left, or right as single story, just as you can with wall lines. So that covers wall lines or wall boxes. Let's go back to the conventional building code. We don't need this toolbox anymore. And we're going to move on to analysis. These switches will flag anything that might be non-compliant. This doesn't mean that the whole wall plan is non-compliant, but it might show you, like for instance, this one will flag any panels that are invalid themselves. And if I right-click on any of these flashing elements, it will give me detailed information. Like this panel has a length of 21 inches, but it must be at least 24 to qualify. So each of these flags something different, and you can check out the tooltips for detailed information. The full analysis button performs an entire code compliance check. Now I know this structure, as drawn, will not be code compliant because I have 2 wall lines that don't even intersect with one another. But let's push it. Let's see what happens anyway. You'll see something like this. Let's look at the top row. We're looking at horizontal wall lines. Number 1 meaning the topmost, which would be this wall line up here. It has 16.7 feet of qualified bracing. For wind, it's choosing this method, and according to that method, we need 8.1 feet of bracing. So its wind resistance is about a factor of 2. That means it's code compliant. Its seismic bracing is not permitted for some reason. If we scroll down, we'll see non-compliance is down here. And for instance, in this one, the wall spacing is 35 feet, which is not permitted. That means that the distance from this wall line to the next one down exceeds code requirements. Let's see what the other building code produces. If I run full analysis, the first thing to note is that these boxes will wrap in tighter to their boundaries. See? And if we take a look at the results, we have wind resistance, everything is 100% or greater, and there are no miscellaneous non-compliances. So this wall bracing plan is code compliant. To print a wall bracing report, go to File, Report View. The report contains the characteristics of the structure, your wall bracing plan as drawn, calculations for all of the wall lines, a digest of every wall panel that is considered valid, construction details for all of the wall bracing methods that are being used, and finally a disclaimer for what the calculator does and does not check. When you're ready to print, you click over here. But before doing that, I'll change some visual settings, like set the background to white. And if I'd like to change the color or line thickness of any of these wall panels, I would do that by going to the toolbox that I hid previously. There are some options to change labels over here, and the labels can also be moved in case they're covering something that's needed. Now I'm ready, so I'll push print. The printing will be handled by your browser, so the appearance will be affected by the layout, the scale, paper size, things like that. In this case, the drawing is being cut off slightly, so I think I need to make this smaller. I'm going to go up here, reduce by 1 click, and then I'll print again. And that fits. Yep, everything looks good. So now I can save it and I'm done. Well, that covers it for the tool's main features. If you have any specific questions, feel free to contact me by going to Help, Ask a Question. Thanks for watching and good luck.